everyone. Welcome to Real Estate Sips with Sandy and Shay.
Yes.
And today we are on sip number 5. And listen, and the title is We Got You Covered. You got to stick around so you can hear what we're talking about. It's some good stuff here.
Yes, and last week we had Debbie Adams from Western Title on sip number 4. That was so informative. And you guys are really in for a treat today with our special guest, Andy Caston from Creative Financial Property and Casualty Group. Yes. So, many times, Shay, our buyers and sellers alike, because sellers eventually become buyers at one time, and those two roles are interchangeable at different phases in life. But there's a big misconception or confusion about homeowners insurance and
the homeowner's policy.
Yeah, absolutely. So
the warranty and the insurance, the two different. Nobody be understanding the terminology when you talk about homeowner insurance
and home insurance.
And home insurance.
So there's homeowners insurance and there's home insurance. Our guest, Andy Caston, who's been in the business for many years. Let me tell you a little bit before he comes on. I actually was introduced to Andy through a lender friend of mine, because we were looking for a competent insurance agency that actually understood our transaction. And that person turned out to be Andy, and he was so personable, knowledgeable, and he was able to get us to the closing table with what he did. You know, you have to get an insurance company or an insurance agent that is competent, because this is one of the biggest investments that you will make in a lifetime, is purchasing a home. And why would you not want to protect it?
Right. And that's why I like this. It's important because a lot of times people don't be thinking about putting insurance on none of their homes, not even in a rental
They'll
apartment.
put it on their phone.
But I have a testimony when it comes to renters insurance, even just insurance, period. I remember, I'm telling you a little short story. The apartment said, you don't need insurance, but I was really about to cancel, but they was like, it was not mandatory anymore. I was about to cancel. Listen, the same day I canceled my policy, my kitchen caught on fire. Oh my God. Same day. The same day. I called a lady back and was like, I was like, ma'am, did my policy? She said, you have 24 hours, so you're still good. It had me covered, and I ain't gonna tell you how it caught on fire. I thought I forgot some ketchup. I went back to the grocery store, and I thought I cut the eye all the way off. You know, like Russian, and I put it on high. Came back, grease was there, grease fire.
No, I don't have those problems, because I do not.
So if it's your house that you just bought, you want to have some covering.
And so you having it for renters insurance. That saved your butt.
Right. So imagine if it's a house, that you just bought, that you just love, So you want to. It's important to get some insurance.
So like I said, I won't have those problems because I don't cook. But it's so nice when we connect with people that find a service outside of them, just themselves, a higher purpose. And Andy actually ran for commissioner of Coral Springs. Yes, he did. And he's all about continuation and stability of families and stability of the economy. And it's very fitting that he would actually be a champion in the insurance world, because that actually allows you to embrace life.
Right.
Because you have coverage in unforeseen events, So we are not going to delay any longer. I love the green, Shay.
Thank you.
She's so colorful. And coming to the stage, to the sip table, is Andy Caston from Creative Financial Property Casualty Group.
Woo!
Yes.
Welcome.
That's the trouble chair. We don't have insurance. Okay, we do.
No trouble. As long as I don't spill what you got on the table.
All right, so welcome. We sip, and I got you a special glass.
Oh, thank you. Whoops. All right.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome.
Cheers to this good information y'all about to get.
And if y'all can guess what we're drinking at the end of the show. The end of your glass says home.
does it say?
Happiness is homemade. And yes, and that's why we need insurance. So you can be happy when your home becomes unmade.
That's
So
for sure.
Andy,
Well,
good to see you.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So listen, tell us a little bit about what you do, your company, and let the people know how they can find you.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for having me. So, like I said, Andy Caston with Creative Financial Property and Casualty Group, and we're an independent, which is important, independent insurance agency. That means we work for the client, not for any in particular insurance company. And we try to just do the very best we can and with the best deal. Oftentimes that just means the lowest price, but sometimes that doesn't mean the lowest price. It means the correct coverage,
That's good.
which is extremely important.
Very.
And then we try to hold your hand during the process, make sure you understand everything, and then ultimately when there is a service issue, and kind of going back to what you said before, a claim, let's say, or a fire or something, God forbid happens, we're there pretty much at all hours to be able to handle that claim and guide you through it, because that's when really things become very difficult and dicey.
Okay. And since most of our audience, Andy, are people that are looking to buy a home, how does what you do manifest in a real estate transaction?
Okay,
that's very important.
Well, that's a great question, because it manifests itself very early on nowadays. So obviously, if you are going to, let's assume that this is all going to be mortgage based, right?
Yes.
Because if we have a cash deal, oftentimes people want to forego the insurance, or they may not want to purchase insurance. Although I always say it's a good idea to have it no matter what. You're protecting a very large asset. But let's assume that this is a mortgage deal, which most of the deals that come through my agency do. You'll want to know how much insurance is going to cost as soon as possible. Why? Because it will be one of the items that will have to be computed into your debt to income ratio, your closing cost, etc. And being that the insurance market is, understatement of being disrupted right now in Florida, means that the price is critically important. More importantly, who is writing the insurance and how can I get a quote and make sure that the quote is accurate? Because one of the things that I do tell people is it's pretty easy to get a quote from an insurance agent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that quote is going to stick when it comes time to purchasing your home and so forth. So there's a lot of other information. There's a lot of moving parts that need to be given to the insurance agent so that he or she can prepare a quote that's accurate. And then, of course, explain it to you and make sure that you understand it and that the coverage is suiting your needs, because everybody's got a little bit of a different flavor of what they want to cover and how much they want to cover.
Yeah. And in fact, you cannot even close your deal without Andy.
Right.
You cannot if there's a loan involved.
Right. So if we know that a closing is less than 30 days out, we can literally transact the insurance for you anytime within that 30-day period. So that's off the table. We can bind the quote, meaning that the quote will go into effect the day you close. The sooner the better. Give that information to the mortgage loan officer, and typically we supply the evidence of insurance and then an invoice to pay at closing. And up until about a year ago or 6 months ago, what we call a replacement cost estimator, which shows how we determined the replacement cost of the structure, typically called coverage A, for those of you that look at your insurance and say, okay, now I understand where coverage A came from. That's your replacement cost. That has nothing to do with the sale price. It strictly has to do with, if the house burnt to the ground, God forbid, we're going to give you X amount of dollars to rebuild it. In Florida, we pay an awful lot of money for the dirt that the house sits on and where the property is located. You're paying a premium for that.
Okay.
Wow. So when it comes to the difference between home insurance and homeowners insurance, explain that a little bit to our buyers.
Because you do several lines of coverage. He doesn't just do home insurances.
Right.
He does health, life.
Right.
All important.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything. And we do commercial stuff too. So if you have a commercial, somebody buying a commercial piece of property, we can insure that as well. And that's a little bit different. it's actually easier process than the homeowner's process, believe it or not. But a homeowner's insurance policy is going to do many things for you. Number one, and first and foremost, it's going to cover the property or the structure that you live in, so that if something happens, a peril, as we like to call it in the insurance business, perils are hurricanes, they're water damage, they're fires, they're theft. There's so many other things that are included in the policy. Those things are all covered by your insurance policy. Okay, and then on top of that, there's liability. What happens if somebody enters your property and they get hurt? They fall down and you're on the stairs in your house, they crack their head open. If it's like, whatever, I've seen it all. The insurance policy will cover all of that.
That's good.
Now, don't go to somebody's house and slip and fall on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that you know.
It's not a good idea.
A lot of people don't know.
They usually scream, I don't have insurance.
Yeah. Some people, they don't know that
Yeah.
homes actually do have that coverage if you slip and fall in someone else's house.
Right. There are medical payments that will kick in first to pay those medical payments up to a certain level. But then, of course, if somebody wants to go further than that and sue you, then there is liability coverage. And the insurance company actually appoints an attorney to defend you at no cost to you. So it's obviously the home insurance is critical to protecting in all likely your largest asset that you are going to own.
Which is your home.
Which is your home, correct.
So what are some of the policies that you write when we're closing on condominiums?
Sure.
And then you have single family homes. I know that there's a difference.
Yeah.
Because sometimes even the homeowners association, they may already have an existing policy, but it doesn't really cover your house that you're buying.
Correct.
It covers it to a certain level. So tell us about this.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it's so dicey in Florida. But let's just kind of keep it simple.
Okay.
A homeowner's policy for a single family home, oftentimes townhomes, even if they're attached, pretty much are what we call an HO3. It's the form that we use in Florida. And the HO3 form pretty much includes everything that I said before. It includes the structure, your personal property, liability, and it covers all the different perils, like I said. The condo policy, which is an HO6 form, is completely different because in a condo policy, we have what's called a walls-in policy. So the condo association is supposed to insure the building, and in the event that building falls to the ground, like it happened in Surfside, what was it?
Right, yeah. Oh, wow.
Theoretically, the condo association has the money from the insurance to rebuild the building and put the walls up as they once existed. However, the condo association, and that includes plumbing, that includes electricity, but the condo association doesn't have to paint your walls, doesn't have to build your kitchen, doesn't have to put the floor down, doesn't have to put your bathrooms in. Replace the fixtures that are in your house, fans and lights and so forth. So this is where your policy will kick in under a condo policy, and your condo policy will pay for those items that the condo association does not cover. And in addition, the condo policy will pay for any damages just like a regular homeowner's policy will pay for. But what happens if you have a leak in your condo?
From upstairs.
Yeah, well, let's say somebody's condo leaks above you.
Yeah.
And they don't have insurance. Well, your policy will still pay for that. Now they'll try to recover the money from the person where the leak started, but on the other side of that, what happens if you have a leak that leaks down into somebody else's apartment? Your policy will cover that damage to your condo as well as the other person's condo. And then one other step further than that, outside of the condos, is what if you buy a single family home and you're buying it as a rental property? You're not going to live in it. So, that policy is called the DP3 or a dwelling 3 policy. And it essentially gives you and actually you can buy that policy and live in the home. They don't necessarily exclude you from living in the home, but it allows you to rent the property out. You don't have to cover any personal property, especially if you're not furnishing that particular home. Gives you the liability which you really do need in that, and also gives you fair market value reimbursement. What happens if there's a fire and you can't, your tenant has to move out? It will replace the income that you were getting from that tenant up to a certain amount that's within the policy until the repairs are made. So it's critically important to have that type of a policy as well. And again, any of these things I'm talking about, if you do have a mortgage, you will be required to obtain one of these types of policies to protect the bank, just in case you decide you want to try to walk away from that home if it got damaged. And that's really why the homeowners, the mortgage company wants you to have it. And then one other thing, depending on where you live in Florida, because we have certain areas in Florida that are flood zones, they may require you to buy a flood policy, which covers the house or the condo, depending on which one it is, in the event there's a flood. And I'm not talking about if a pipe breaks or, if you have a leak in the house. I'm talking about a flood, meaning water inundates a very large area in and around your home and affects other homes as well as yours. And typically that's where a flood policy will kick in and pay, because your homeowner's policy will never pay for a flood unless you endorse it with a flood endorsement, and most people don't do that.
Wow, and I remember for so many years, some cities had to, some residents in certain cities had to pay flood insurance, and then years later they found out, oh wait a minute, you're not in a flood insurance, in a flood territory.
Correct,
but they don't get reimbursed.
No, once you pay the insurance company, it's real hard to get money back from them typically. But yes, a lot of the flood areas that we had in Tri-County area were rezoned. And when they were rezoned, for the most part, a lot of people were taking out of these flood zones into what we call an X zone, which is a low propensity to flood. It's not required if you are in an X zone for you to carry flood insurance by the mortgage company. There was a few people that actually got put into flood zones, because the old rule was that if most of your property sat in a non-flood zone, you didn't have to buy it. Now, if the littlest amount of property touches any of the other flood zones, A, E, AH, which are typical in Florida, now you have to buy the coverage.
Oh,
and
wow.
So that's changed quite a bit. But for the most part, I think most of that remapping, as we say, was beneficial to the owners of the properties.
Right. That sounds. I don't like. It sounds like it's good to have though.
But,
even though it's strict, it's like,
well,
it's protecting them.
True. And let's say that even if you're in an X zone and you do not need flood, the highest elevations that we have in Tri-County area is literally 13 or 14 feet above sea level, and those are in the new construction areas because they build the land up with landfill prior to constructing on top of them. But you can pretty much have a flood anywhere in Tri-County area because we are so low as far as our elevation goes compared to sea level. There's water everywhere, correct?
Right. But I wish that DP3 would cover when tenants do not pay their rent. Oh my God, I had to go through that. But one of the things that you brought up was the like if you have a plumbing break. So this is an ongoing issue. Polybutylene pipes.
Oh, yeah.
That keeps realtors out of work unless you know how to connect with someone who knows the business, knows the ins and outs, so that you're not losing these homes for your buyers. I mean, there's only so much you can do as an insurance person, Andy.
Correct.
But have you seen deals fall apart because of polybutylene pipes that cannot get coverage?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I do understand the polybutylene pipe. And the polybutylene pipe was a pipe that was used in Tri-County area several years ago. And it's really PVC piping, but it's a different kind of PVC piping that reacts with the fluoride in the water. And the fluoride in the water makes the pipe brittle. And over time, it's not if it's going to crack, it's when it's going to crack. And so plumbers typically don't even really want to do repairs on polybutylene piping, because the minute they manipulate it, it shatters. It just shatters. Yeah, it's very hard to work with.
What about teeth? We use fluoride.
Yes, yeah, but it's not calcium. It reacts. That's the biggest reason why they have problems with polybutylene piping, is because the fluoride reacts with the piping and thus makes it brittle.
Oh, wow.
So most insurance companies in the past would not even insure a house that has polybutylene piping. There were some insurance companies that did insure them. And so I'm gonna at this point mention two reports that are critical that you, if you're a realtor, really need to talk to your buyer about obtaining. Now, for the most part, the home inspection companies are probably going to be a pretty good resource for this because they're going to recommend you purchase this. But since the insurance business is so disrupted right now, even if you have a home that's built in the 19, let's say
45.
Well, if you have an older home, for sure. Let's go by the Citizens rule. Citizens is, of course, the state-run program. They were the last insurer along the line that you would go to in the event you couldn't find insurance elsewhere. They're writing about 90% of the policies now, but they require you to have a 4-point inspection for any home that was 20 years or older. In the past, they did not. Now they changed that rule. So if you're buying a home and the home is 20 years or older, it's highly recommended that you get a 4-point inspection. And also another critical inspection is called a wind mitigation inspection. The 4-point inspection is going to look at the major systems of the house, one of which is plumbing, and it's going to give you on those major systems all of the updates that were done, if there were any updates. The electrical box got changed out in 2010. The polybutylene pipe has been remediated. There's no longer any in there. Or there were some electrical problems, but they were resolved. The air conditioner was replaced in a certain year. And then the roof. The roof. But when that roof was replaced, we need to know that, because as agents, I can quote you a policy, but let's say I give you a quote and now you send me the 4-point and we realize that there's polybutylene piping in there. Now things are going to change. So
or the roof is on fire.
Yeah, well, if the roof is bad, you got problems. But those will disclose any issues that we have, and then if any insurance agent that has those reports will know what company they can go to, who's taking it, who isn't, and if there is an issue, at least the realtor will know right up front, and maybe there's a credit that needs to be applied to the sale. You need to know that as a realtor as well, so you'll know all of that up front, and it's better to know that early on, and maybe you could save a deal as to doing that in the 11th hour when the deal goes south on you.
That's absolutely correct. And we have had transactions where the policy actually wasn't binded until maybe like the day before closing.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I mean, a lot of times it's the buyer's delay.
True.
But have you had quite a bit of that, or you seem to get it done as soon as the lender reaches out?
If I'm coming into that type of a deal, it's because somebody dropped the ball and they're calling me and going, "Help, save this deal, please." Normally, it wouldn't happen if I was working on it, if I have all the proper information and so forth. And I believe, and you can correct me on this, but I think that those types of moving parts have to be resolved at least 3 days prior to the close. I think it is, for the mortgage rules and so forth, right? Exactly. They need to be able to have all this information, I think it's 3 days before the deal closes in order to be able to close on time. So, and how can it go south? Maybe the agent gave you a quote and didn't realize it was polybutylene pipes, or maybe the roof has some issues and the carrier that they went to won't allow the policy to be written. There's so many things that can go wrong. So if you have it up front, that's why I'm always saying, get it to me as soon as possible. If we can bind it 30 days out, we want to do that. Because I've seen insurance companies close capacity 2 weeks before the policy was supposed to bind. They didn't bind the policy, and now and it's happened to me. I have to go back to the client and said, we didn't bind that policy, and now X insurance company just closed capacity down, and they're not even writing insurance. Now we have to go back to the drawing board and find another insurance company.
Which delays the closing date. It delays a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why we need an Andy Caston on our team.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Andy, I want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna get in his business a little bit. I mean, because with so much information, as you could tell, he's a wealth of knowledge. Coral Springs, he missed out on a great commissioner. But who's to say? Maybe he'll
That's
run.
okay.
Maybe he'll run again.
No. One time's all I can do.
The politics. Well, Shay, you have any questions for Andy?
No, I think he answered everything. I was sitting here trying to think. I was like, he ain't covered it all.
Yeah.
That's the title. We got you covered.
Andy's got you covered. So it's Creative Financial Property
Yeah,
Casualty Group.
What I ask people is just
And
call
he's
myself.
the vice president.
Yeah, just call my cell. That's the easiest thing to do because I take calls after hours on the weekends, because
See?
that's when you need to have the services of somebody that really cares about their clients and really
Yes.
wants to make sure that they are taken care of. So that's really that's the phone number that's on my card. It's on my website. But it's 954-854-4314, and I'm happy to even answer questions and help you along the way, even if I'm not able to get the business from you, because all those brownie buttons will give me brownie buttons in heaven, as they say, and I could use every little
Yes.
brownie button I
We'll
can
be
get.
up here eating brownies together, right?
Yes.
And his number is also scrolling along the bottom of your screen as well. But thank you so much. We're gonna cheers going out.
Cheers,
This was
thank you very
awesome.
much.
I learned so much.
So much. Get you guys some insurance and call them.
Exactly.
Have a great one.
Ciao.
Cheers. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.